Right, on to the questions.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, may be right. Let's see. Some of these, as always with the Tiny Bookcase, they can get a bit weird or deep. Let's see where we go. What is the first story you wrote that meant something to you?
I guess, like most writers, I've written since I was a kid,
Yeah.
but I never took it seriously, or rather, it never occurred to me that doing it could ever be something serious, you know? I just wrote stuff and either chucked them in the bin or scribbled them away. And that kind of followed me into adulthood. I still wrote, but I just didn't write. And then I entered a competition. It's like write a story on the back of a postcard. And it was run by a writer and academic, Professor Kate Laity, who, if you want something good to read, go and look for K.A. Laity, Laity. She's awesome. And I found this postcard of Salvador Dali harnessed somehow, and he was jumping either from a helicopter or a really high building. And so I wrote a story about that and a lemur. So, and I won. And it was the first, and it was the first time I'd written something and anyone had gone, that's good. You know, in fact, I was told at school that I could talk fine, but my writing wasn't very good and stuff like that. So, but he can suck it because he's old now and I've got a master's degree in English literature. So,
High five.
suck it.
Yeah.
Whichever teacher you are, go fuck yourself. I hope you listen.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, so that was the first time that anyone took me seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had people in my adult life hear that I write stuff and laughed in my face and stuff like that. So,
Really?
yeah. Oh, you're a writer, are you? You know, that kind of thing. Someone read some of my story out of a book that had just been published and was like, yeah. I know some not very nice people, I guess.
Do you get
horrendous.
it's a thing I get quite a lot as a musician, which is when you tell someone, "Oh, I work in this, creative aspect," they'll go, "Oh yeah," as if to say,
Yeah.
"Do you now?" And then
Who do you think you are?
sometimes you get this absolutely horrible turn of phrase, and I know people don't mean it to be as awful as it sounds, but they'll say, "Oh, you're good actually," and that actually is so loaded.
Yeah.
And it's this strange assumption, especially in England, that everything people do will be crap because everything is crap. Whereas you go to the States and people are super excited to hear about stuff you're working on and what you've done. But yeah, we do. There is this cultural, it's almost an identity built around being dismissive of people's creative endeavors. So I absolutely feel you on that.
Yeah, I guess they treat you like you're this audacity to create stuff, and it's like, but it's possible for everybody. You know,
you get that lovely phrase. Well, I've never heard of you.
When people say, "Have I ever heard of you?" and I always go,
"You tell me."
I don't know. Can you see me? I don't know.
You might be a fucking shut-in. I've got no idea, mate.
And then I'll name a writer who is reasonably famous to me. I say, well, if you haven't heard of them, then you haven't heard of me, and please fuck off. But yeah. So for me, the postcard story it changed my life. I mean, Kate Laity is now one of my dearest friends and a mentor, and it just validated me. Just a tiny little story on the back of a postcard. So that's pretty cool.
I like that a lot.
That's
good.
You can still find it. I think if you Google something like K.A. Laity postcard competition and maybe Chloe Yates, that went on for longer than I thought it was going to go on for.
Then
I'm pretty sure it's still alive there somewhere. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm just going to check it out. You've really unlocked a bit of not rage, but like opinion potentially in me about this, about the way that people treat and respond to you saying that you're a writer or Nico saying that he's a musician. And I do wonder whether it comes from a place where, like, there's this sort of sentiment that everyone's got a book in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually do think that's true in some ways. I think it's probably sort of more accurate to say that there's a part of the human psyche that needs to be creative in some way, whether that's crocheting or writing poetry or slamming a bass guitar into an amp on a stage. Like it's like people need that, and if people don't have that, I feel like they become immediately hostile and jealous to people that are in some way doing that, whether they're successful or just starting out or whatever. It's not helpful. It's a bit toxic. And I think it is rooted, rather in anything to do with you, it's rooted in the fact that these people aren't satisfied with the way that they are expressing their potential in their life.
Yeah, I think you got that right. Nail on the head. Absolutely. Because it was embarrassing a little, and I still remember the incident, but all it did was serve me to keep writing and do better and ignore it. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm very glad you did.
Thank you very much.
So when our lovely listeners want to start reading your stuff, and if they've listened to the last episode, I have no doubt at all that they're going to want to, where would you say, like, this is the piece to start with?
Well, in 2021, my first short story collection came out from Fox Spirit Books called We All Have Teeth, and was nominated for 2 British Fantasy Awards, I might add.
Good.
Thank you very much. One of the categories was Best Newcomer, and 2 days before the nominations came out, I had no expectation that I would be longlisted, let alone shortlisted.
Yeah.
But I'd read Shelley Parker Chan's She Who Became the Sun, which is an awesome book. And I'd read it 2 days before, and then it was in the same category as my book. And I was like, Chloe's not winning. Oh, no way. So I think you can get books from Fox Spirit Books. I think they carry the collection still. And, of course, the big River Place.
Oh, yeah.
And also Black Shark Books. I was in an anthology, which I was quite surprised to even get into, which was nominated for a BFA as well, called Dreamland.
Yeah.
And that contains my BFA nominated, again, thank you, Fill the Thickened Lung with Breath story. And that was alongside people like Laura Malrow, Priya Sharma, Penny Jones, and Julie Travis, who is one of my absolute favourite writers. If you haven't read anything by her, Google her and find something, because she's amazing.
I'm writing it
And
down.
it was edited by the lovely Sophie Essex, who has kind of become a sort of muse for me. We have a lot of shared interests, like mainly art stuff. Tell me if I start sounding really wanky.
No.
But
no, we like it.
You're on with us. It's fine.
So I'm really like into surrealism and a little bit Dada and that kind of stuff, and particularly the female surrealists. Like Leonora Carrington is like one of my all-time heroes. So I know when I write for Sophie, the kind of mindset I need. But that whole book, Dreamland, is gorgeous, and I am incredibly proud of the story that I wrote, I have to say.
That's really good to hear. I love hearing about positive editors in people's lives. Like virtually everyone that we've had on the podcast, at least recently, has had some sort of positive story about an editor, and it's so vital to the process.
Yeah.
It's hard out there for small independent presses. They're going under or suspending business and stuff, and so if you can buy from them, then do.
Yeah.
That's a simple message.
Same with
but
it's always a moral compunction to say it. Same with your library. If you want to read something by by someone who's not being published by, Bloomsbury or one of the massive people, go and ask your library to get a copy in for you.
Oh God, yeah, someone please go to a library and ask for my book. I don't even know if it's in a library.
Oh, that'd be nice to know. I know we had a guest relatively recently that said that the difference in royalties is significant as well. I think they get far more if it's put into a library.
Yeah, you have to join the ALCS and PLR or something else, and they do it automatically once you've joined and logged your books in, I believe. So, yeah.
We mentioned BFA a few times, and also British Fantasy Society subsequently. But obviously, when we were first contacting you to see if you'd be up for coming on and telling stories with us, it was just around FantasyCon.
Yeah.
And I know you. I think, do you volunteer there as well? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So would you be up for just giving us a quick rundown of sort of pitch it to us and our audience, because it's such a cool thing. I think not a lot of people necessarily know about it.
What, pitch FantasyCon or working at FantasyCon?
Yeah, either really.
Both.
Well, it's not a huge con. I think anywhere from 300 to 500 or so. And I started volunteering because I didn't know anybody very much, and I wanted to have a reason to be there other than that I was a writer. And that was about 10 years ago. And everybody is friendly. They want to talk to you about books and stuff. And you have panels with all kinds of people. I was on a panel with Zen Cho and Dan Coxon, Andrew Hook, and I saw one this year with Adrian Tchaikovsky and Jen Williams and Anna Smith Spark, and you're seeing working writers, and you're talking to each other it's a community.
Yeah.
So and then everyone goes upstairs to the bar and gets drunk. So that's it, really. But there's all sorts going on, but it's just that feeling of being, like I say, a community.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I live a long way from home. Obviously, I live in Switzerland, but I have made so many friends since I've been here, online and through the con. And it keeps me going. Great.
I'd imagine. What was that community like during the pandemic? Did it sort of go online, and was it still supportive?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, because a lot of people are on Facebook or Instagram, and so we're trading weird things we found when we went for walks, and reading people's stuff, and just keeping in touch with each other a little, touching base. And you quickly find that you'll know someone, and they know someone else, and you know them as well. Oh, it's all very like that.
Good positive communities they are unbeatable, aren't they? It's finding like-minded people who, sharing a hobby is one thing, but finding out that, no, do you know what? Actually, I just love your company, be that online or, I mean, it's a big part of mine and Ben's friendship and our friendship group. It starts because you like throwing dice together, and then all of a sudden, actually, do you want to be best man at my wedding? It's that.
Yeah. It's finding your tribe. It's because the sort of people that we are, not all of us are extroverts, and so it's nice to find a room full of people you can just sit and read a book with. Or, but then there are others who are extroverts and they want to be on panels and performances and stuff. But everyone has some respect for each other, It's not competitive, I find. Everyone pretty much is rooting for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Certainly with my kind of friend sort of vague region. Yeah. You just, you want everyone to do really well, and they in turn want you to be your best self. So it's nice. Hippies, isn't it?
Yeah, hippies. Yeah, hippies the best people. So.
Yeah.
I think so long as you show us where that bar is, we'll be there next year.
Yeah.
I think you'll be able to sniff it out, no problem.
Unbelievable.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So
got him right.
Oh yeah, well, less him, more me, I think. But yeah, it's I drag him along. Although we did absolutely murder that bottle of whiskey one time. That was
Oh,
that was a good evening.
One time, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Didn't happen
say.
multiple times. No, I just remember that one in particular because then you very poorly played the ocarina in front of me, and Nico's a very talented musician, and I found it absolutely hilarious that he thought he was doing really well.
Do you know, I put that ocarina back in its case and I've not played it since. I'm so horrified. Yeah, seriously.
You'll have to do it for me again while sober at some point.
I'm gonna have to learn from the beginning.
It's probably bewitched by the spirit of the evening.
By the spirit of the spirits.
Oh.
So I want to take you sort of mentally to imagine yourself in a street in London. You're walking along. There's nobody there at all. It's freaky as fuck because there's absolutely nobody there, and it's the middle of London. It's dusk, sort of dusk light, and then you start hearing a bit of a whirring noise, a susurration, if you will, and then a light snaps on above you. This cone of light directed at you, and above you is a 1950s looking flying saucer, and you are dragged up into the air by some sort of tractor beam, and appear suddenly in front of a little grey dude who speaks to you.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
You alright, my love?
Oh, nobody's ever called me that before. Wow, is this that feeling? A lot of humans write about this feeling. It doesn't feel any different to the other abductions. Now, I'm here to make you an offer. Either you may receive this probe, or you could give me a book through which I may better understand you.
Now, how many people ask what happens if they ask for the probe?
Virtually everybody, actually.
That's what I thought.
Well, I gotta stop abducting writers. They're freaky, man.
They're far too inquisitive, talking about the kinds of lube and all sorts. It's great.
Okay, so there's two things. I'm going to be liberal with the remit, because this is book torture.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you seem so nice and friendly, and then this is a question.
Yeah, well, that's really weird framing device for you.
I'm not with those guys.
This little grey dude's a prick.
So I think We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson is a big one for me. I'm agoraphobic, and you rarely see agoraphobia represented in any sort of media in any way that is really identifiable to most agoraphobics I've ever met. It's usually very hysterical and intense. Like, have you seen Copycat with Holly Hunter and Sigourney Weaver?
No. I haven't. No.
It's probably from the old days in the 90s, because I'm 50, so old. But it's where someone can't leave their apartment building, or not their apartment building, their apartment, or their room or whatever, and it's all very chest bulging and freaky. In We've Always Lived in the Castle, the character Constance was the first time I've ever read a description of agoraphobia that was like mine, which is, I can leave my apartment, but I have a safe zone and I have places that are safe. So I never thought, when my doctor first broached it to me, that I could possibly be agoraphobic because I went out. So reading that, and the fact that it's Shirley Jackson and she's fucking brilliant, it was the first time that something seemed to really understand me. And because Shirley Jackson was agoraphobic as well, and she ended up just being in her bedroom, in her bed, until she died. So I kind of wish she could know how much good she did with Constance alone.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it's an awesome book as well. It's weird, so which is my bag.
I like that one. That's good. What's your second one?
Okay, so I've been even more liberal because it's a TV program.
Oh yeah, okay.
But if you want to understand me and the gods that I worship, you need to watch Woman. That's come out all at once. A yak. You need to watch Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote.
Because Jessica Fletcher is the supreme goddess. Thank you. That's it.
I think
there seem to be a lot of episodes of this. This is going to take me some time.
I think you just tied Alien up for a while. That's good. That's good news.
Well, I did. Well, when she died, I decided to have a rewatch because obviously I've got it on DVD because I'm a psychopath. And so she died last year sometime.
Yeah.
And we've just got to series 12. We're nearly at the end. So, Jesus Christ, it takes a long time. But it's totally worth it because she's amazing.
Yeah, I sort of wonder why I haven't seen more of this. I think I've potentially seen like 3 or 4 episodes of this ever. But it does seem like it is fun, and I have enjoyed what I've seen of it.
I feel like I've seen quite a lot of it because as someone, long-term medical condition, it was always on TV in the daytime when I was young, so I saw quite a lot of it because of that.
Yeah, it used to be. I went to university quite late. I was 28, and I remember coming home in the afternoon, and you would switch it on, and it would be on. So that was always good. And you can watch it at the moment because it's on one of the Channel 5s. I think it's Channel 5 America or one of those ones. It's every day. It's just Murder, She Wrote. So
do you associate it with going to uni then? Is that a sort of a part of your?
No, not at all. To be honest, it's just I remember watching it when it first came out in the 80s because I was probably early teens in the mid 80s, and I remember enjoying it. But it's been the last 20 years or so that I just started watching it over and over because she is this amazing woman, and she's a middle-aged, menopausal woman who's a widow, so she's like on her own, but she is like bossing the entire world. She like the way she stands up for herself for a demographic that is normally pretty invisible, which is quite important to me because I'm that kind of age. And how she just like stands her ground. You don't realize quite how subversive it is. It's, she doesn't take no shit, man. And she like just runs rings around all these men who are mansplaining about 98% of the time. So she's cool, man. And she's a writer, so hooray.
Yeah. So I don't really know much about the background, but it's Angela Lansbury, isn't it? Is the thing. Yeah. And was she an advocate outside of her acting work as well? Do you know, or is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was, but I can't speak to it because I don't know that much about her.
Sure.
Because I'm so focused on Murder, She Wrote. So, but she certainly in the production of Murder, She Wrote, she tried to get in actors who were a little older, who'd gone out of fashion, who weren't getting enough work, so that they could get their union dues paid and stuff like that, so they would be looked after. So she would go out of her way to give people parts or help, assistant directors become directors and all that kind of stuff. She was a pretty cool lady.
That's really cool. I like that.
That's cool.
I like that a lot.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks.
There I am.
I think the alien can bugger off now.
I mean, I have a lot of TV to catch up on. Luckily, I can watch it at alien speed. Slightly slower than human speed. Goodbye.
So when you
bye, my love.
Bye bye.
Get out of here, you little bastard.
Ah.
So when you have you've drafted a story, you're ready to sort of get to work on it. What is your editing process?
Honestly, I don't really know. I do tend. I'm a pantster. It all kinds of happens at once.
Yeah.
But I do like to get out a crappy first draft, just so I have something on the page. And this is going to sound very wanky, but was it? Oh, I feel like I can't even say it. Was it Michelangelo? Not the turtle. Who described sculpting as the marble revealing its form to the artist, rather than you imposing your vision on it. It's a little bit like that. I don't think a story comes alive and tells me what to do or anything. I think something in the back of my head is running. There's like a program in the back of my head running all the time that my conscious mind doesn't tend to have direct access to. So I find that if I get a bunch of stuff, I can then kind of carve it out from there. And then I just basically go at it until it's done, really.
I like
That's
opening a nozzle and letting the story out.
Back to the nozzles, I see.
Yeah, no, it's unstoppable with these nozzles. They protrude in all sorts of odd places as well. So I just looked it up actually, just so we could get the quote. It's the sculpture is already complete within the marble block. Before I start my work, it is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous marble, or material actually is.
And was it Michelangelo?
It was. You got it right. 100%.
Hey! See, my dad's an artist, you see, so I have to try and get in there.
Lovely. I feel like we almost need to give a definition of wanky to our American audience, because we do know. So it's sort of like a bit dodgy. Is that like is there
dodgy?
Gauche.
Oh, something. I just thought of the word and it's gone. That's typical. That's my perimenopausal brain. Thank you very much.
But it is. It feels quite quintessentially British, actually. You start talking about something, and then you realise that you've gotten a bit too emotional about it, got a bit too highbrow about it.
It's like you've got tickets on yourself. You know what I mean? Like you think, yeah, that's right. Yeah, look at me. I'm going to talk about some art. Yeah.
I mean, it is very English because it's describing a thing in a way that makes you sound like a wanker. But only we would be like, ugh, did you learn about something? What a wanker.
This is what's happened when you're part of a civilization that has collapsed. Like, we're a part of a culture that died a long time ago, like a few hundred years ago.
I mean, one day a scientist is going to declare that putting the milk in your tea first is actually better, and this whole nation is going to collapse under its own weight.
No, that's not going to happen. So, just to correct you there.
Was it you that told me a story once about how someone who'd never been told how to make a cup of tea before, they put the milk and the tea bag in the kettle and then turn the kettle on?
I didn't tell you that, but that's horrifying.
I love it.
It may have been
what sort of a brain does that?
I think that the person that they were describing, now this isn't to tar everyone from the here with this brush, of course, but I think the person that they were describing was Canadian. I think they were American. Yeah, no, I'm starting to remember this was actually a work colleague, not a. Yeah, potentially not one for the pod. But it is.
Cut that one out.
It is funny.
Wow.
I saw a video the other day of someone, and they were an American, doing it in this order: water, sugar, milk, tea bag, and then they put the whole thing in the microwave.
Oh, I've seen that.
What?
Deeply upsetting. America, you need kettles. Get electric kettles.
But that wouldn't steep. You wouldn't.
No, it doesn't.
Of course.
You don't need to tell me that. I'm not committing this savagery.
Well, we should go into it now. So when I make a cup of tea, I put the tea bag in. I'm going to really spell this out. I put the tea bag in the mug.
Correct.
Yeah.
All while the kettle's been boiling, I then pour the boiling water over the tea bag.
Oh no, you got to let it cool slightly, just under boiling.
Under boiling, right? Okay.
Yeah. So otherwise you burn the tea anyway.
Then
noted.
Then if you're going to put any sugar in, you put some sugar in then, so it can dissolve properly. Then I add the milk. Then I use the tea bag to get all of the horrible scum that I should probably just clean my kettle. out of the top, and then that gets thrown away, and then you've got a
Do
perfect
you
little
squish the bag against the side of the cup to
used
get
to.
all the tea goodness out?
I used to, but
'Cause I do.
that sort of releases the tannins. I'm not a big fan of that.
You don't like a
I
tannin?
don't put the sugar in until after the bag is out.
Okay.
And I use a tea strainer because our water here is so chalky because obviously it comes from the mountains and whatnot. So yeah, it has to go through a little tea strainer because otherwise it's just like white chalky forest across it. But I take the bag out, I let it steep till it's ready, then I take it out, then the sugar goes in, then I leave it for a beat, and then I put the milk in. Which is actually a complete lie because I don't drink tea. I drink herbal tea, so I'm full of shit.
You know, there's at least one Anglophile fan who has had an orgasm in the last few minutes, so you're very welcome.
Everybody else is brought to tears.
Everyone else is going, "You fucking mugs! That's not when you put the sugar in."
My friends will be, "What was that, Chloe?"
Oh, that was interesting.
I'll be like, that's how they all are. It's my first one. So, yeah.
A bit of an odd question, but like as a Brit abroad, do you enjoy living in Switzerland? Is it like a welcoming place?
Yes and no. It can be quite hard to make local friends because a lot of them are friends kind of cradle to grave. They're quite small communities and stuff like that. But personally, it's a beautiful place to live. My only trouble is my family's quite a long way away, and since being here, I've kind of become part of a community that is all in the UK. So, but Switzerland is beautiful, and it's probably about one of the safest places you could live at the moment in a world that's going insane.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. I'm lucky to be here.
I haven't had the opportunity to ask anyone this question. Are there Toblerones all over the place there? Or is this one of those things? No, I genuinely want to know because there's always these things that go, oh, like that's the Swiss thing. But then you go to those places and you wouldn't see Carlsberg in Denmark, for example.
Oh, no, they paved the road with Toblerone. That's just what they do.
Delightful.
No, they do have some, but you have local chocolates.
Okay,
so, and your local chocolate is the best chocolate. So we have chocolate called Villard.
Yeah.
And there is no better chocolate in the whole entire world. That's just the way. Same with fondues. They have different fondues in different regions. And the Fribourgeois, the moitié-moitié, is the only one that you should really eat because it's the best. So just saying that.
The fondue and the chocolate, is it a bit like how people support their local football team? Is that the translation for? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
Do you have a facility for languages? Do you speak any of the 4 languages that they speak in Switzerland?
Sort of.
I ask because I'm shit with I'm awful with languages. My partner's brilliant with them, and I'm awful. So
I wish I was better.
Your partner is a linguist, but
yeah, I know.
That's their whole.
So definitely good at languages then.
Yeah, but I'm also objectively shit at them, so it's a real spread.
I can speak French enough to get by, and I can have a conversation about various things. And when there's an emergency, I can deal with it. Kind of thing. My husband had a thrombosis a few years ago. And I could suddenly, because we had to rush around to get him tested all over the place. So we walked 100 yards to our doctor, and then we had to walk 50 meters to the X-ray place, the imaging place, to look at his leg. It was like we're in a different world when it comes to like health services. Anyway, but my French was perfect, and I understood what I was being told, and you know what I mean. You get that adrenaline spike kind of thing.
French.
So, but German, ich verstehe nicht. That's it. Don't understand, mate. Nah.
I can only do song lyrics in German because by the time this comes out, my lovely wife is obsessed with the band Rammstein. So
I have friends who are as well. Yeah.
I know a lot of German songs, but not much functional German. So I can tell people things like, "I like the way you smell," but that's not great.
Maybe Germans like that. I'll ask them next time. Yeah.
Good Tag, the rich so good. Oh. So, other authors, who inspires you?
I have a lot of friends who are writers, and all of them keep me going with like enthusiasm for the craft. And like I said before, I see others doing well, and that always gives me a boost, like, you know, vicariously.
Yeah.
Someone like Sarah Pimborough inspires me. She's very hardworking. She's out there putting in the hours, and I mean, she's just been given a 6-book deal with, I think, Tor and Orbit. I'm not quite sure on that, but like just her attitude is really good. Plus, she's super nice, so that's lovely. And Julie Travis, who I mentioned earlier, she is a wonderful writer, and I don't understand why she's not a name whispered in odd tones in corners. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But difficult, because mostly what inspires me is art and poetry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being to, like, as I said, Leonora Carrington and Hannah Hosh and Remedios Varo, stuff like that. But I think one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read that I just don't think will ever leave my mind is Clive Barker's Cabal.
Okay.
Is that how you say it? Cabal or Cabal or Cabal?
Cabal, I think is how I say
Cabal.
it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, so.
But it's like, it's just beautiful. It's so visceral and brutal, but there's something so yearningly beautiful at the same time. It kind of sits in my gut, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly a hangover from my studied romanticism, like the late 18th, early 19th century, you know, like Blake and Keats and whatnot. And it's their idea of the sublime, that kind of slightly out of reach something that's so beautiful, it's kind of terrible at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that it just stayed in my head, and I'd really love to write something like that. That would be cool. But I think most of all, I was a bit of a weird kid, and I read really early. I taught myself to read, and I read Jane Eyre when I was 5.5.
Oh, wow.
And I still have the little copy. I don't say it didn't take me about a year, but I read it. And I mean, it's one of the best horror novels of all time. Because, I mean, you got ghosts and mad women in attics and running around on the moors and stuff. But for me as a kid, I mean, I read it so many times after that. And I really understood her urge to be more than she was told she was supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
And I still do, I think. So I guess, yeah.
I like that. It's interesting how inspiration works for people, and it seems for you that it's multifaceted. Like it's, you know, work ethic, but also like themes and concepts, and also like, you know, characters and things like that. It's really nice to hear. So fascinating.
But also Sarah Pimborough, not only is she like works really hard, she's a really good fucking writer as
really
well.
Good.
So
yeah, of course, yeah.
It's got me thinking we should be asking other creatives who inspires you, because it is true. You know, you're saying poets and painters, and
authors is a bit limited, isn't it?
Stories can come from anywhere. You know, Ben once told a story on the podcast that was inspired by seeing the graffiti scrawlings of a houseless person. Like they can come from anywhere.
Yeah. Oh God, I love graffiti.
I'm absolutely entranced by it. Whenever I see it, I love it. It's fantastic.
There was it was a huge piece of graffiti. I grew up by the coast, and there was this. So you got the stone walkway that the beach is under it, and there was a kind of concrete outcropping, and underneath someone had sprayed in giant letters, "Only gods and surfers walk on water." And just every day when I walked past it, I thought that's just the coolest shit.
Oh, that's nice. That should go in your writer's spank bank for sure. You know, when you're like you tap into it every now and again, don't you? Like your little. Mine tends to be bits of art or a turn of phrase. I write down like little bits, and you use it when you need a little spanky. Let's call it that.
So you've actually you've changed the question. So you've left
Of
us better than
course.
you found us, I think, there, because I think alliteration is a much better way to ask that question. Have you ever associated a song or a piece of music with one of your characters?
Well, now, no.
Ooh.
But not a character, but my work is pretty much peppered with quotes and the general influence of The Cure.
Oh, cool.
It might not seem obvious most of the time, but pretty much all of my stories have a reference to one or other of their songs somewhere. Sometimes it's a title or a quote in there or something. Sometimes just listening to one song. I've listened to the song Primary probably about 200 times when I was writing I forgot what it's called, but one of my stories in the collection. And somewhere I'm just trapped in an endless darkened loop, and I like it. It's nice.
The Cure are responsible for one of my favourite bits of not music but footage, and it was when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You've seen it, right?
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
The interviewer comes bouncing over. She's American. She's really bubbly, like that full tilt American TV personality. Says, "The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Are you excited as I am?" And Robert Smith is, "Well, from the sound of it, no."
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I like that. I hadn't heard that before. That's fucking wicked.
I will find and send it to you.
It is awesome just to watch it. It's just
Like of all the bands to come out with that attitude, why the fuck would you do that to The Cure?
She had a little bit too much sugar that day.
Oh, just a touch. She was all bubblegum and lemonade.
Yeah.
A few toots up the nose, potentially.
Well, we don't cast aspersions, darling.
I do. You might not.
I don't cast them. I know them. So, when you're reading fiction, what are you drawn to? What are the themes you like?
Well, I'm quite eclectic in that I'll give pretty much anything a go. I read a lot of non-fiction as well as fiction. I love an unreliable narrator.
Ooh,
yeah. I read The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay a little while ago.
Yeah.
And no spoilers, but it was very much up my street, like uncertainty, questions of identity, that kind of stuff. Who am I? Who are you? And all that. The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke is a really good example of someone trying to figure out their place in the world.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing read as well. Sounds really. I really like a love story. I am an absolute sucker. It's always going to get me. I think Gideon the Ninth.
Like a full soppy, like a big soppy story. That kind of
somewhere in it. Yeah, like the little like central heart of it, like Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Bloody brilliant book. But there is this love story in it that just had me hooked. And yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for it. It's quite the marshmallow thing.
Yeah.
But also I really like reading about women my age.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my hag era, which I am embracing fully. It's a weird time to be alive, like the perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
It's, traditionally we're not supposed to speak about it. It's uncomfortable and we should just get on with it. And I'm like, fuck that shit. You're going to hear all about it all of the time. So it's kind of a powerful time as well. It's we're meant to be certain things, and then all of a sudden we're not them anymore. And
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we're finally starting to get a bit of movement on things like teaching young men about menstruation properly and getting men to hopefully kind of get away from this. She's on a period, that was she's in a mood. Like, start actually educating people.
yeah.
But the menopause you're right, it's not being discussed, and
but it is more now.
Movement
now,
yeah.
It is more now. It's more and more people are going, oh, hold on a minute, there's a lot of us doing it. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's really unpleasant about it, no doubt. But I'm trying to look at it as positively as I can, because it's like a casting off, if anything, this expectation that you will have children. I mean, I couldn't have children, so that has a whole lot of other issues around it. But like the expectations, social norms, it's like we got to shrug that shit off, and like we're leveling up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we're not going to be confined, and we couldn't care less if you can see us or not, because we still exist.
Does it feel like metamorphosis in a way?
Yeah, it does. Sometimes it's just a pain in the ass, but sometimes literally no. But it's for me it is. It's like I'm changing, and I'm like, I thought when I turned 40 that I was kind of like, like fresh out of fuck kind of thing. But since turning 50, which literally like a month ago, I realized that I hadn't been actually feeling like that. And now I realize, it's...
Yeah, now you really don't give a fuck.
No, I don't. It's really weird. It could be the medication, of course. But it is,
What's that poem called there? When I'm older, I'll wear purple.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that's cracking. I can't remember.
I remember reading that in school, and I've been looking forward to that time in my life.
Yeah, man.
But now, like 20 years, I can't wait to just not give a fuck.
I mean, I've always been a little bit odd and don't really fit in places and stuff, and I don't realise that I'm going my own way. I just think that's what I think you should do, so that's what I do, kind of stuff. And again, writing has given me a community that I didn't have before. So in fact, a writer friend of mine, Tracy Farhay, has just written a novella called They Shut Me Up from PS Publishing.
Yeah.
And which is exactly about this, like a woman who is invisible, kind of finding herself and embracing the change. And it's a cracking read as well, as usual. She's awesome, Tracy.
I sorry, just because of how you said it, but I think it'd be a really cool story if a woman hit menopause and literally became invisible.
I think there might be something out there like that. That rings a bell.
Actually, that rings a bell for me as well. Actually, I wonder whether that has been done.
Maybe I just stole that.
or it's like all good ideas. When somebody says it, you're like, I'm sure that must have been done already. And you have to go and check. So you have to go and check and then bring it.
I'm sure I've read something about a disappearing woman. I don't know if it's a poem or a story.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I've read something about how she just gradually disappears. So. But you didn't think you were going to be talking about that? Hey!
No, we're into it. I think for myself, I was effectively raised by two women, and they were extremely verbose about all of this kind of thing. So
excellent.
It was a real surprise to me when you encounter, in particular, other men that are very sheltered in this regard. Yeah. Because it must feel. I mean, already, when somebody like loses it with you out of nowhere, or they the natural sort of emotional swings and stuff of it. It's much better to be able to understand that and know what's happening than getting super starting to exhibit some really problematic behaviour around that. I think as a man.
Yeah. We all need to know a bit more. It's knowledge is power, like people say.
Absolutely
true.
And empathy will take us a long way.
So we'll flip it.
Yeah, right.
I think so. These are themes that you find appealing, but are there any tropes that you actively avoid in your own writing? You know, like, I'm not having any of that in my writing.
You mean other than white male saviors?
I don't think you'd get it published now if it did.
Not really. No, wait. Schools, academies, boarding schools, whatever form they come in. I've got to say, I'm a little bit tired of it.
Right.
Like
sort of
everyone,
like Hogwarts-y type thing.
yeah. I mean, everyone's doing it in their own different way, and I mean, I was brought up for good or ill by on Enid Blyton. Yeah. So my childhood was full of Mallory Towers or St. Clair's and Jolly Hockey Sticks and all that business. I mean, I didn't. I came from a working class background. So, and I did think I would grow up and write stories like that maybe, but I don't know, everybody's, doing it. But I mean, there are ones that are awesome. Have you read the Home for Wayward Children series by Shanann Maguire? Shanann?
No.
Well, I think they're all novellas, and they are lovely. They really are. They're weird and, well, they're just lovely, to be honest. I really like them. But that, when it's done well, then that's fine. But it always seems like every man and his goat is writing another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
do you think British Wizard School extravaganza is a big part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, that whole thing, you can see the bits from, like, oh God, what's the one with the schoolgirl who's a witch? I read as a kid. That's it. Yeah. You got stuff from like that in there, and I mean,
Snape is just straight up the demon headmaster, but we're not ready for that conversation yet.
I don't even really know who that is.
Oh, really?
I'm too old.
They're such an odd phenomenon for it to have gone the way that it's gone, with all this sort of turfy nonsense, happening.
Yeah.
It's such
tragic.
a weird thing to have happened. Yeah, tragic. Like, it's such an odd thing.
Yeah.
Because it really, those books, they captured kids, they captured adults reading it to kids.
Yeah.
When I was at university, there were Harry Potter societies with people running around playing like Quidditch and like, hooking up because that person's a Slytherin and that person's. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like it just completely captured people, and then seemingly overnight, or so it felt like to me anyway, because I'd completely disengaged with it. It just exploded.
Yeah.
There were fires everywhere, and everyone was at each other's throats, and there was so much inflammatory nonsense being chucked around. I was just shaking my head the whole time.
You just wonder how something that was such a force for good can, because I genuinely believe that reading pretty much anything, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you read, like for kids mainly.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like it, and that's fair enough, but being able to read and engaging with material that you like is so important to how you develop as a person.
Yeah.
Like to have a personality of your own, I think. And then to have it all sort of just, kind of turn to shit, I guess. It's sad.
I wonder if people are still, like, if anyone's actually taking the Harry Potter books out of kids' hands because of the things that happen, or whether it is sort of is it still something kids are reading, or is it sort of dead now? I don't. I think
they are. I mean, most of my friends who are younger than me and who kind of grew up with it, still are, have affection for it and whatnot, and I think they should still be able to read it. Like,
it's an interesting one as well, where like, would kids find the books without sort of going through the filter of the movies first? That's something that I really wonder about, like, because obviously now we're at a stage where the movies have outgrown the books in a big way, and is it even possible to see a Harry Potter book and try and find out more about it without just getting Dan Radcliffe force fed to you?
Probably not, because I mean there's so much advertising footage still. isn't there? Like, because you've got Harry Potter World and all that stuff. So,
Also,
I mean,
Hades help any kid who Googles Harry Potter now, because
dear.
there is just some filth.
I just had an image go into my head of one I found. What? I didn't know for a long. I sometimes I'm a little bit naive about stuff, and I can't remember what I put in, and it was Captain America and Thor.
Oh,
Yeah. I was like, what's he trying to get hold of? Oh.
That's not a hammer.
You thought the hammer was heavy. You should lift this.
What's that sea cucumber doing? Oh, you know.
But
that, you know.
I'll give you a little fun side story just off of that. When I was a young man, when the internet was new and burgeoning, I did my first ever search engine search, and I wanted to see Action Man because I loved Action Man, and I googled, well, it wasn't even Google at the time, search engined Action Man, and boy, did I learn a lot from the results. And I didn't get unsupervised computer time anymore after that.
You don't want to know what I used to make my brother's Action Man do to my Cindy doll, so moving on.
Or the reverse, maybe. So what's your next project?
Okay. Well, I have got a novel sort of bubbling away in the background, but it is not sure what it is yet. So I won't talk about it in case I scare it off.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I do have that tendency. So at the moment, I'm trying to write short stories, and I'm trying to get better at it. Yeah. So, and like, I quite like unconventional or slightly different ways of delivering storytelling. So like something like The House of Leaves by Mark. Can't pronounce his last name. I'm very sorry about that. Or, you know, like epistolary things, you know, like just trying something a little bit different. I quite like that. So I'm pretty much sort of stuck in there at the moment. I have a story coming out soon.
Oh, yeah?
From Avonvale Press. They have a anthology called At the Lighthouse. And again, it's edited by Sophie Essex. And I wrote a story for her for that. And I was very, very pleased with that coming out. So I think it's available now.
Oh. And if people want to know more about, you know, novels that you may or may not have scared off and what you're up to and you know, where we're going next, where can people find you online and keep up with you?
So my website, which is not updated enough because my web monkey is a lazy man. So I'll have to kick him up the backside. That's Chloe. How did you know it was him? It's Chloe Yates. It's chloeyates.com. And I'm at Shloobie, SHLOOBEE, on pretty much everything else. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story for us in the first instance, and then also just taking us through your approach to storytelling and how you know, also like so many people that you've mentioned that you know, real righteous promotion for them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, go and find them. They are wonderful people.
And so, but thank you. As unhinged and dirty as we are, it's always nice to have someone keep up and, in fact, overtake at some points.
No, thank you so much for asking me. I really appreciate it, and I just hope I make some sort of sense because, you know,
you'd be the first.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
All right, my loves.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Tiny Bookcase.
Remember to subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss out on the future fun.
Also, tell a friend. If you like this episode, link them to it.
We'd be tremendously grateful. You can follow us on Twitter at BookcaseTiny, Facebook at The Tiny Bookcase, and Instagram at BookcaseTiny for updates. Speaking of supporting the podcast, well, magic can only take one so far. The Tiny Bookcase is supported by the generosity of its patrons. Those kind souls have
Really kept my belly full the last year. Let's cast a spell for them, shall we? For rich ginger tones on the scalp, let us cast the Orangi Hedondo spell for Scott Byrne, and for general fabulousness, why not the Ooh La La, How's Your Mother spell on Matthew McLaren?
How do you come up with that shit, man?